So this video is the most important lesson I learned from my friend. And if you're looking for a light video, this is not it. So my friend is a local craftsman. He makes the hardware for our barns. So he lived only a few miles away, and whenever I needed something done, he had a metal fabrication shop and a machine shop. He kind of retired as a machinist, and then started his own shop, started building all kinds of things, repairing things for farmers, fabricating, and just doing a lot of different work out of his shop at his house. He really cared about what he did. He took time for everybody that stopped at his shop. Often he wouldn't get a lot of work done because he had to, stop what he was doing and talk to somebody about their, the thing that they were working on. A lot of times they came to him because they couldn't fix it themselves, and because a lot of farmers are do-it-yourselfers, and they got welders, they got things that they can use to repair and keep going. So really, at the point where they come to Jimmie's shop, they are at their wits' end, which is a lot of times when I came there, is because it's something I couldn't do myself. I needed Jimmie's expertise, and it's really important to have a person like that in your community where you can rely on that person to do the things that you can't do. So just one example is when I bought my tractor. He was about as excited about me buying the tractor as I was, because that's the impression I got from him, because I told him the next day I went to his shop to pick up some hardware, something that I had him make, and I said, "Hey, Jimmie, I got that tractor I was looking at," because I'd been telling him about me looking for a tractor, and he's like, "Okay, bring it over, and I've got something special for it." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever it is." My friend's a genius, so I knew that it was going to be something that I was going to use a lot, because I trusted him, and I knew that when he said it was going to be something very useful, then that's what it was going to be. So I brought my tractor over there, and I drove the 3 miles on the tractor to his shop. He went in his shop, and he pulled open a drawer, and he grabbed out an old trailer hitch ball, and it had the bottom of it was broken off. He had a drawer full of these things. So he cut what was left of the bolt that comes off the bottom. He asked me, he said, "You mind if I take off the paint in a spot for your bucket, on your bucket?" I'm like, "Yeah, go for it." So anyway, he ground off a spot on my bucket, welded it right in the center of the bucket, and he said, "That is going to be useful. You'll use that more than you can imagine for picking things up, for hooking a chain to, hooking logs to." And I have used that thing so much, hanging deer off, hanging a log that I'm in the woods in. If I'm pulling logs out of the woods, I can just hook it around that ball and just pull that log out backwards, which is really a handy way to pull a tree out of the woods. Because I trusted him on that level, I trusted his experience. When I needed brackets made for the barn business that I started, his shop was the only choice. There was no question ever in my mind whether or not I would try to make the brackets myself, or I would try to get some commercial shop, or the worst ever, I had a couple of companies from China call me and say, "Hey, we can make your brackets for you for half the price." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Our brackets are going to be made in the U.S. by a local craftsman. And you know what? It maybe the price is a little higher, but man, having people like Jimmie in your community is way, way more valuable than a few dollars that you might save by buying a product that's mass produced in some factory in China or India. And I don't want I don't want to disparage people in those other countries. They need to make a living too, but everyone around the world needs to support people like that, and it's not just for their benefit or your benefit, it's for the benefit of the entire community that you live in. So that's the lesson. It's people like him and people like you that learn the skills and do the things that are what is great about this country. No president, no matter how great, can replace that. I don't usually get political on this channel, and I'm not really. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. You are way more important than any president. What you learn, what you contribute to your own community is way more important than one day every 4 years where you go vote. So small town people, big city people, people all around the country that make the things and do the things and know the knowledge and have the reputation. That's what makes this country great. It's the people that are working together towards a better future, like him, you know, that are doing the best that they can to raise their family and to pass on what they learned. And speaking of passing on what they learned, this is the most important lesson that I learned from my friend Jimmie, and that is to pass on what you learn. Because last month, my friend had a stroke and passed away. It is a very difficult loss, because you know, he knew so much, and he affected so many people's lives around this community. But that's not the end of his story. A few years ago, he took on his grandson as an apprentice and poured into him, taught him a lot. He and his grandson Brendan went from you know, skilled labor to now he's been able to take over the shop, and definitely sooner than he expected. But he's been able to take over the shop and really pick up the mantle. And now, because of that, because of what Jimmie did, teaching his skills to his grandson, that can continue into the future and can continue to be an asset for this country, for this community. So that's the lesson. Chances are you know somebody like Jimmie, and chances are high that you are somebody like Jimmie, that you have some knowledge that you can pass on, whether it's canning, whether it's homesteading, gardening, whatever that might be. You have some skills that you can pass on to the future generations. And wouldn't it be a shame if you didn't pass that on, you just kept that to yourself? You know, we all have an expiration date. And if you don't pass on what you've learned, then it goes with you. And that is one of the biggest losses that a community and the world can experience. If you know somebody like Jimmie, try to become an apprentice. Learn what they know. If you are somebody like Jimmie, and you've learned a lot of things and you can share it with other people, teach them. Teach younger people that are willing to learn the things that you know, so that can continue on and benefit your community into the future. And also, support local businesses like that. Support local craftsmen. Go spend a couple extra bucks, you know, buy their products. Yeah, you might have to dig a little deeper into your pocket, but the investment that you make, it's an investment into your future and your children's future and your grandchildren's future. and everyone that lives in that community's future. If there's not a financial incentive for people like Jimmie to do the things that they do, to craft things and to know these things, they're not going to spend the time and investment into learning those things in the first place. So that, just doing those things can make your community, your state, your country, and the world a better place. So with that, thank you for watching the video. Go learn, teach, build, and thrive.